Hey everyone, so this week instead of learning something new, like a new piece of music, we're going to go over a little more stuff about harmonizing. So last week we learned about harmonizing in thirds with major scale. So this week we're going to do it in the minor scale. Same idea, but instead of learning a new song or applying it to one we already know, I just made up a little exercise. And it's a cool little trick you can do using the E minor scale because we can play it all off the high E string, which kind of makes it a fun one to play up and down the string. And it kind of really ties everything together we've been talking about, but makes it a little more straightforward of understanding how to harmonize these notes, okay? So, one-page printout, 4 parts to it. The first line here is just the E minor scale. So we're going to go over that in a minute, and we'll kind of talk about that. Then here we have, with the A, example 1, so this is going to be our main melody line, our little lick that we're going to be playing around with to harmonize. And then next line down, kind of broken down the notes we're going to harmonize and how they're going to end up. And then we have our final harmonized version. Our harmony part. It's not a harmonized version because we're not playing both together. I'll try to demonstrate that, or at least let you hear how it sounds, but it's a little harder to do because you have to then play 2 notes on 2 strings with a open high E in the middle. Okay, so let's start here. So first line, our E minor scale on the high E string in 1 octave. So being E minor, we're going to start with E. See a bit better. So we're going to be going between the open and the 12th fret because that's our 1 octave. So for E minor, minor scale is always whole step, half step, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. Again, with a whole being 2 frets, half being 1. So for E, this works out to E, 2nd fret is F sharp, 3rd fret's G, 5th fret is A, 7th is B, 8 is C, 10 is D, and we're back to E. Okay? So the little lick that we're going to learn over, it's called a pedal point lick. So what we're doing here is we're going to be playing it off the E string. So every note is going to be like this, just the E, and then we're going to put in notes. From that scale in the middle. But we're always going to go back to the open high E in the middle. That way you kind of get this E tone going through and then the notes will pop in. So when we're harmonizing those specific notes, it'll sound really cool together. So, starting again, we'll look at line 2. Look at the example here. So you'll see we have the 8th fret start, 2 open high E's, 7th fret, 2 open high E's, again a note, 2 open high E's. So it has the same pattern all the way through, except for the last 4 notes where we're just the way it lines up, we're only going to have 1 high E in between. So I'll demonstrate here example 1, the melody, and then we'll kind of go over how to get to the harmonized part. So again, it's going to start on the notes we're going to be playing are 8, 7, 2, 3, 5, back to 7, and then we're going to repeat this over. In between those, we're going to be hitting the high E, so it's going to sound like this. Okay, and one more time, because I played a wrong note there the first time through. So we're going to start with the 8th, 2 open, 7, 2 open. Now we're going to go down to the 2, 2, 2 open, 3, 2 open. Now the tricky part here, 5, open, 7, open. And since we started on 8, we're going to go right back to it. So there's tons of little parts like this, all kinds of famous songs. The advantage of doing this over your high E string is if you're playing a song that's in E, or in B actually, it works as well, you can do the same kind of lick over the B string, but it'll fill in on a chord. I can be playing something that's in E, it'll work because it's in E, so all those notes will be fine if I'm playing an E minor chord. And if we're playing in B, well, B and E fit together really well. So again, you can play the same kind of thing on the B string as well, just a little easier on the high E to start with, and it just makes a little more sense for what we're talking about here. So moving on, we move to the third line here now. So the first bar are the notes that we're going to take out of the exercise that we're going to harmonize. So we're not going to harmonize that open high E. All those are going to stay the same for when we play our harmony part. So the notes we're going to be playing are, we have our 8th fret, 7, 2, 3, 5, back to 7. So now let's break down those notes and we'll go over how we're going to figure out what the harmonizing note is. Sorry about the little blip there, I needed to sneeze, so I paused it for a second. Okay, so how we're going to figure out our new notes to add into this harmony part. Remember, these are third harmonies. So what we're doing is we're going to take each note and go up 2 degrees in the scale. So for the E minor, E is our 1, F sharp is our 2, G is 3. So if we're playing, like I played here, there's our E, we want to harmonize it with a G. Okay, so that is 2 degrees higher. So let's just randomly pick, we'll go from G. So we make G our 1, we move up just looking at that top line of what the scale is. The next one is 2 is A, we're going to move up 1 more to our 3rd level, 7th fret. So again, I'll take that note and I'll move it down so we can play them together. We end up with a harmony like that. Okay, so now let's look at the actual example. So 8th fret. Count up 2 on the top line. So we go from C to D. We're back to E at the octave. Now this works great because it still, sounds different because it's an octave higher. The disadvantage, you can also go 3 down as opposed to up when you're doing these harmonies, but eventually doing it on this way over an open string, you're going to end up hitting the E where you're playing the same note, or you're going to have to bounce back and forth. So this way we're always going to be going up for this example, okay? So our first one, as you can see on the next bar here, our 8 is going to become a 12, okay? Now again, looking at this top line, 7th is our next note, 7th fret, which is B. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. So that's going to become 10th fret, D. Now we'll drop down to the 2nd fret. Again, 1, 2, 3. So now we're on the 5th fret. Our next note is going to be 3rd fret, so 2, 3. We're at the 7. And now we're going to go to the 5th fret, so 5, 7, 8. And then again, 7, 8, 10. So our original notes were and that's going to become for the harmony. So now what I'm going to do so you can hear those together, it's I'm not going to probably be able to do it with the open high E in the middle. It's a little tricky picking exercise to try to hit that because I have to do an upstroke. I'll give it a shot, but it might not go too well. So we're going to play just those notes together. So what they're going to sound like, we're going to take the notes off the original melody here, so the part A. I'm going to have to move them to the B string so I can play the notes side by side. I can't play 2 notes on the same string at the same time. So the easy way to do that is to move them, if we go down 1 string, is it goes 5 frets higher. So for example, our first note we were going to harmonize was an 8th fret. If we go down 1 string and 5 frets higher, become 13. The harmony note was 12 on the high E. So together, we end up with 12th fret on the high E, 13 on the B. Okay, so this is the last bar of that 3rd line there, right before the harmony example. So together, these notes are going to sound like this. And we'll bend it back there. So I'm going to attempt to play them together here with the high E in the middle so you'll hear what it sounds like. And then I'll just play the harmony part after it. So it'll sound kind of like this. as you can hear, it's a little trickier because you won't naturally want to try to hit that B string instead of the high E, so you kind of have to upstroke it. Anyways, it's kind of besides the point. So our part B, our final line here, is our example of the harmony. So remember, our first line, I'm going to play part A here again one more time. So the melody line was this. So we substitute those notes, we just figured out the new harmony notes into that same pattern, we end up with. So you'll notice the two patterns look very similar and play very similar. The difference is because the notes, when we move things up 3 degrees in the scale, it's not always the same as when I just move things between two strings, okay? So moving a note from the high E to the B, if they're standard tuning, is always going to be 5 frets higher on the B, okay? We can't do that with harmonizing the scale. I can't just assume this whole pattern. I can't just move everything up 3 frets or 5 frets and just keep it the same. So you'll notice here, in the original pattern, it was 8, then 7, so 1 fret down. Whereas in the harmony, it's 12, 10, so 2 frets down. So the gap between the notes is going to change a little bit. But if you kind of learn to memorize the E minor scale over the high E, you can really play around with this pattern and come up with your own harmonies, your own little licks. There's all kinds of famous ones in songs. I mean, I'll just play a couple I know. Or those are just two of the ones I know off the top of my head that it's a very used kind of trope, I guess, in music, especially with guitar, because it's an easy string to hit on its own and get that kind of. That's the other thing. I encourage those of you to pick when learning this is instead of playing all downstrokes. Example, try alternate picking it. Okay. And it becomes a really good exercise in alternate picking because you need to play it crisply and cleanly to the metronome in order to get those notes to pop out. And once you get that timing down, it's actually a lot easier to play that way than doing it straight downstrokes, just to keep the timing and the flow. So things to remember to be playing this: 2 high E's in between our melody notes for all but the last half of the second bar, where it's going to be 1. Okay, just remember that. So it's 1 and, okay, there's that quick little shift up. I wrote this in a way that the shift is going between 2 frets that are down here. If we'd gone the other way, we'd have to make a bigger jump. So at least it's moving up, so we're not having to go too quickly from way down here up. This is an example of a lick you would play linearly down the string as opposed to ever really trying to play it down across different strings, just because of the way it is. So kind of beat around the bush on that one, but again, we have the melody here and then the harmony. So down in the description below, I have playthroughs of both those. I've looped the lick 4 times as opposed to just the 2 here. So it's about 30-second videos. So what I encourage you to do is to try to play along with them, learn the parts, but then play along with the other one. So if you want to play the melody, play the harmony video, because then you'll really be able to hear what they sound like together. This is a great example, specifically in E minor, the minor third harmony, of why a lot of bands have 2 guitarists. There's a lot of famous ones, especially in the hard rock world. Thin Lizzy is famous for it. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them. Often this kind of harmony is called the Iron Maiden harmony because they are, again, well known for it. They have 3 guitars, so they'll go 3 higher and 3 lower, and just really fill the sound out for a lot of melody lines and songs. So yeah, it's just kind of an interesting little trick. It's good for anyone of any level of guitar to learn. So just play around with it, and we'll work on, again, something new next week. I'm not sure if we're going to dive into a new song at this point in the year. However, come up with some more things and see if we can come up with something we can learn each week that's kind of a self-contained chunk. All right? So if you have any problems with the video or any of the downloads or anything, the sheet music is also going to be in the description below. Just let me know through the comments or send a message or something like that, and I will do my best to fix that for you. Thanks. Bye.